Hello, my name is Virgil and this is Literally Books. Today I want to talk about Olga Ravn's The Employees. The first thing I want to say is that I read this because of Curtis at Deep in the Reads. And I'm going to put a link to his video up in just a second here, and you can also find it in the description. But before I do, I want to tell you what this review is going to be. I like Curtis's review. He did a standalone review of this last year in 2024, and then it was also very recently in like January 2025-ish, he did my five best books I read in 2024, and he does a sort of micro review or like a pocket review in there. They are both so great. I would like it if you go and watch them. But I read this book, based on his review and him sort of saying, you might like this. And then I did read it and did like it, like almost immediately. So, one, I would like to offer you the opportunity to go watch Curtis's video before you watch mine or instead of watching mine. And that'll be over here. The quality of his reviews is extremely high. And he's also a phenomenal artist. If I can, I'm going to put an image or two up of some of his art. Just phenomenal. I think he's got something going on right now. I don't know if I can put a link to that. I don't know if there's anything for me to link up. If there is, I'll put a link up. Otherwise, just go to his channel and just bug the hell out of him and make him show you his art. Please. Now, on to the review. So, this is a science fiction story about, it's a workplace novel, right? So it's about like the horrible things in a workplace. Sort of like a worst case scenario, right? I jokingly, in talking about what this book is like, made the statement that this book is like the love child of Ursula K. Le Guin, Gene Wolfe, and Philip K. Dick, and that baby was sent to space to collect cursed Pokemon statues. Okay? That's a humorous and somewhat accurate description of this book. The writer, Olga Ravn, is Danish. The original novel was in Danish and was translated. It was longlisted for the Ursula K. Le Guin Award in 2022. I don't know the exact copyright date, but the translation date is 2020. This company, has sent a bunch of people to space. And they go to a planet called New Discovery, and they discover these objects on this planet which seem to maybe be alive and possibly be sentient, although the company does not want you to say that exactly. Though they never expressly say they don't want you to say that, although it's definitely implied. And they're collecting these objects to bring back to Earth. People in this expedition are both human and humanoid. It's not entirely clear what is meant by humanoid. There's often discussion of them being updated. They definitely look human enough that you can't necessarily, by seeing them, tell the difference. Some of the humans definitely make them aware of the fact that they're not human. And they don't seem to have the context of existence that humans have. And so this book really explores not only like the relationship of the humans and the humanoids to these objects, and the relationship of the humans to the humanoids and the humanoids to the humans, right? The relationship of these three parties to each other, all contained in this sort of like boiling pot by the company on this spaceship. These are all employees out here working, and they're expected to work and be productive in the midst of just complete madness, in a sense. I think it is madness. It's played down a lot, but there's true madness happening. And Olga Ravn's demonstration of how this madness presents itself as the humanoids start to become aware, or maybe they were always aware, but they start to sort of become their own thing, not a sort of a like weak offshoot branch of humanity or just a subordinate tool or robot. The novel is not presented in a normal format. It is not a he did or I did type stuff. The novel is a series of interviews, numbered interviews. That is the only context you have in the novel for progression of time, and that's really about it, right? It's almost impossible to tell who's talking at any time, and you can sort of infer. Sometimes I definitely know that there's times where I'm hearing the same person again, but it's very difficult to discern exactly is this person human? Have I heard this person before? Is this another interview with the same person or not? So it might be a concern to you that this novel, because there's not really named people in it, that you're going to struggle to be engaged with it, or that it's going to be confusing. I don't think so. The way that it's written is so well done that I don't feel that that's a problem. Also, this is an extremely short novel. In audio format, it is literally 2.5 hours. The page count, I think, is 125 pages here. The print is not very big, but there's plenty of use of open space, right? And essentially, it's a long list of statements, right? These are little interviews that the company is giving with the employee, right? Employee so-and-so is going to give a statement. We're not told who this employee is, if the employee is male or female, if they're human or humanoid. They just start talking, and we don't even hear what the interviewer is saying to the interviewee. We only hear what the employee says. So sometimes they'll say something, and then you can tell that there's a response from the representative of the company, but we don't hear that. We only hear the response to that response. We only hear them reacting to that response. There's a lot of disassociation. There's a lot of discussion about what it is to be human, what is their relationship to these people are having to these objects and how they make them feel and what they're thinking, and confusion about themselves. There's an arc to this novel, but I will say the arc is not particularly sharp. It's not like a massive climax per se. There is an arc, but I think that the arc of the story is a lot less important than what's going on as the interviews progress. The arc is important, but it doesn't feel like a traditional novel in that way. So I would probably, I guess why I sort of bring this up, or maybe awkwardly say it, is that I feel that this novel is really better read as being a short story. You should approach it as a very long short story. The way that it's written, the way that it's presenting information to you is a lot more experimental. It's also very easy to access, very easy to read a page and stop if you have something else to do, so you don't, not be like in the middle of a statement, so to speak. There's very rarely do you get a statement that's very long. And so that makes it very easy to get through very quickly, and it just feels like it takes the tone to me of a science fiction short story or a very short novella than a novel. It doesn't feel exactly like a novel. And I think when you have a novel, you think that you're going to get a lot more story development. And what you get instead is a lot of these really strange musings that you sort of piece together to create a mosaic of what's actually happening on the ship. I think it does everything it needs to do in the novel. I think it's really great. I think it works best if you view it more as a short story. I think even though it isn't a short story, I think it's better to approach it from that perspective. So there's a couple things there. So let me just talk a little bit about, look at my notes real quick and just see what I've got going on here, especially with the humanoids. There's a lot of talk about, there's a lot of discussion that seems confused. A lot of, I cannot think of the word, but where you're sort of replacing one sense with another, like, oh, that smells blue, that sort of thing. There's a little bit of that, not too much. That's never leaned on to the point where it becomes exasperating. It's always used to sort of highlight something going on in the mental state of this employee. And as the novel progresses, you definitely can feel it eroding the humans, and that the humanoids are sort of awakening, coming into their own, and becoming more, and everyone is just having more and more bizarre reactions. It reminds me of the film, I have not read the book, which I need to read, of Solaris, the original version of Solaris. And there's things going on with these characters that aren't exactly easy to explain. And I think that instead this sort of improper use of senses, the sort of almost frightening but mundane activities that some of the characters take place in, that just sort of make us, that's not violent, but just make us worried. I'll give a really good example. There's one point where one of the employees is giving an interview, and they said, I decided I cooked my dress today, but I forgot about it and burned it by accident. I left it in a saucepan and forgot it. And that's right. It's frightening. You're concerned. You're like, this person is having a difficult time with reality. And there's absolutely a conversation to be had about the company treating the employees, all of them, like objects, that the human employees see the humanoids as objects, and that the humans sort of like recognize that the objects themselves is what they're called, the objects, right? This conversation becomes difficult because everything's given a very generic term, that these objects are maybe living, but the humanoids like definitely see the objects as living things. There's even a discussion about what is life and what is living, and they start, and someone says like rocks and sand, and they start naming inanimate objects as things that are living. There also, I'm going to point out, a really great interview with the writer. It's in Dutch, I believe it's in Dutch, but you can do closed captions to watch that interview. And I watched, before I've seen this, I watched the other day. I watched about 3/4 of it. I need to finish it, but it was really interesting to hear the writer talk. If this book sounds interesting to you, you can go watch that interview. I thought it was really well done, and she doesn't speak very quickly either, so the closed captions at the bottom of the screen have no problem catching up. They seem to be very well translated, so it was really interesting to hear her talk about what she thought. I don't know whether that is advisable before you read the novel or not. The novel is so short, I would say maybe read it, but if you're on the fence, then maybe see the interview first. Try that. The company sees all of these things as objects, right? Even like to the company, in a sense, it almost seems as though the humans, the humanoids, and the objects that they've collected are all more or less in the same hierarchy, right? That humans see themselves as superior to the humanoids and the objects, and they sort of see them in the same hierarchy, but the humanoids see the objects as almost deify them, or have like a symbiosis with them, or have this like very strong and powerful reaction. And it's hard to tell if the humanoids are like being uplifted, as it were, by these objects, or if it's just them thinking about, like, recognizing the humanity in these objects. They seem to communicate with them, or they seem to be able to communicate somehow. And if that musing is making them have these sort of moments, these moments of clarity, these moments of like true sentience or something. And of course, there's a lot of effort in the novel to stop this, right? This entire work is about how we can improve productivity. I should say that the idea behind the novel is like, this is supposed to be a document that says, I guess that's a spoiler. So, okay, wait a minute. So slight spoiler, but because I've been kind of referencing the end here, but I don't think so. I think it really does say the beginning. What does it say at the very beginning of the book? So I just want to read a couple things. I'm going to read the very, very beginning of the book, right, that says what this book is, essentially. And then I want to read a couple quotes from the book and then wrap it up. Here we go. So from the very beginning of the book, the following statements were collected over a period of 18 months, during which time the committee interviewed the employees with a view to gaining insight into how they're related to the objects and the rooms in which they were placed. It was our wish, by means of these unprejudiced recordings, to gain knowledge of local workflows and to investigate possible impacts of the objects, as well as the ways those impacts, or perhaps relationships, might give rise to permanent deviations in the individual employee, and moreover to assess to what degree they might be said to participate reduction or enhancement of performance, task-related understanding, and the acquisition of new knowledge and skills, thereby illuminating their specific consequences for production. So the entire document is sort of like, read these, handed around like a corporate meeting, like, hey, next time we plan an excursion, like, read this and sort of see like what went wrong so we can get these guys more productive. We want to get more work out of these people. right? Because this whole book, it definitely feels like the people are being exploited, right? Right? You know, it's like there's no work-life balance, right? The humanoids literally muse at times like how can humans not want to work? Like that is work is life, right? It's really interesting. It's really interesting science fiction novel that also is very pertinent to essentially anybody. So this is these are, I think, all fairly early in the novel. So this is statement 18 from page 17 in this copy. The dreams are something that you've given me so that I'll always feel longing and never think a harsh word about you, my gods. All I want is to be assimilated into a collective, a human community where someone braids my hair with flowers and white curtains sway in the warm breeze, where every morning I wake up and drink a glass of chilled iced tea, drive a car across a continent, kick the dirt, fill my nostrils with the air of the desert, and move in with someone, get married, bake cookies, push a stroller, learn to play an instrument, dance a waltz. I think I've seen all this in your educational material. Is that right? What are cookies? And I think that's just, you know, this whole thing, this humanoid is you know, struggling with the fact that it has all these memories and like wants, but it has no association with what these wants are. It's been told like, you want this, you want this, you want this, but it doesn't even know why they should want it and what the value of these things even is. Because there's nothing at all like the things that they're made to want on this ship or ever in their actual existence. Yes, page 20, statement 27 and statement 26. And here's something interesting, that the interviews are not interview 1, interview 2, interview 3. No, I think we start with interview 4. I don't even know if we ever even see interview 1. And sometimes they're not presented in order necessarily either. They definitely seem to progress upwards. They do numerically grow, but in this example, for example, in this reading I'm going to do, we have statement 27 followed by statement 26. And sometimes we get revisits to the same statement. I noticed that happened. I noticed there was a case where one statement is revisited a little bit later. I'm like, oh, I've already heard from this statement. At first, I thought these statement numbers were the employee numbers, but they're not. We don't really ever get employee numbers, or very rarely do we. Like I say, it's hard to sometimes you can kind of suss out like, oh, I've heard from this person before. Here's a little bit about the objects. Statement 27. My research has led me to the conclusion that the best way of establishing contact with the objects is through smell. And I want to say something. When I read this, sorry, I'm breaking in with my reading. When I read this, I thought, oh, this is going to be really hard to pull off. Through smell, like this is probably not going to work, right? You tell me if it works between these next two statements. So I chew bay leaves when I'm in there with them. I've made several scientific advances by means of this technique, which has encouraged several of the objects to respond to my approach by emitting a smell in return. Each object has a distinctive, and dare I say, personal smell at its center, and the object guards it the way a hand might clutch a pearl. Statement 26. The fragrance in the room has a will and intention. It's the smell of something old and decomposing, something musty. It's as if the smell wishes to initiate the same process in me, that I become a branch to break off, rot, and be gone. And I thought that was, what an act of, like what a malicious sort of like message is it, right? That like you figure out, oh, these things communicate by smell. And whenever I'm around, they emit a smell of something rotting, right? Like they want me to die. It's just so like, and you can see how plain this language is. These interviews sound like a real interview that you would have, right? It sounds like a real interview that you're getting an excerpt from. It doesn't feel like a narrative. It doesn't feel like a manufactured narrative. And I thought that was just so well done, that the story is so well woven into plain speech, and that it's so well executed, right? Such good writing. The last one I read is from page 48. I don't remember what this one is. I don't remember what any of these are. This one's longer. Okay. So this is a discussion about the biodraperies, okay? And this is a little bit longer one, so you have to bear with me, I guess. Statement 54. It's easy to talk to you. It feels like whatever I say is right. I speak and you write down what I say. You smile at me. I think you all look really good. I get the feeling that while you're noting things down, you're also drawing me. The biodraperies are stringy. The third and sixth are wet. The first and fourth are shades of blue, while those from 10 to 14 are all the same color, which changes with the ship's cycle. The second and ninth draperies are red, and a wind blows through them. Some days they sway gently, other times they flap like mad. These fluctuations in the wind follow neither the ship's cycle, nor, as far as I can make out, any other logic, at least none that I know of yet. The fifth biodrapery is silver. Not silver, but a kind of transparent, glimmering chiffon, though of course it's not chiffon at all, but biotissue. This one, the fifth biodrapery, is definitely the friendliest of the draperies, whereas the one next to it, the sixth biodrapery, can't be said to express any form of personality at all, and yet is the one the workers touch the least. It seems to be made out of the deepest darkness and has very little materiality at all. The eighth biodrapery is the one that looks the most like something that could be familiar to us, having the same quality and appearance, even the same smell, as chocolate-covered corduroy. A pleasant and at the same time faintly contemplative biodrapery. We call it the grandfather drape. Although hardly anyone in our section has ever had a grandfather, we still know the concept, and it's not a difficult concept to grasp. A real pleasure to read. Very little investment in time, just phenomenal modern science fiction. I really feel like this is just a classic. I really do. I just feel like this is such a great book. If you enjoy science fiction, if you have enjoyed Le Guin, as I said, or Philip K. Dick, I think you'll like this. I know we talk about Gene Wolfe a lot on here. So if you like Gene Wolfe, I think you'd like it because I think it is sort of have a puzzling sort of nature that maybe you would suss out. Maybe that appeals to you if you like Gene Wolfe. If you like something different, something experimental, I think this is good. And it's very readable, as you can tell. I would eagerly read something else by Olga Ravn. Thank you very much for your time. A like and subscribe is appreciated. If you go over to Curtis's channel, a like and subscribe over there is also appreciated. Give him a comment too. He's a great guy to interact with, on top of being a wonderful artist and a really excellent reviewer. He's also just a great person. So you won't be disappointed by him. I never have been. And don't plan to be anytime soon. Whatever that means. That's it. Thanks very much. This is a great book. Thank you, goddammit, Curtis. Quit fucking reviewing these goddamn books that are so fucking good. It's pissing me off. I'm like, I have all this other shit to read. Sorry for the cursing. That's it.